Okay, final bomb question on sex drives and sublimation and how it really works. So, by no longer having an orgasm, I feel like I have the feeling I constantly feel like having sex. Is that how it should be? Or shouldn't sublimation also satisfy that? I think I have a big sex drive and I used to suppress it with daily masturbation and porn because I was afraid of my wife's rejection. It was the easier way as she never wants to have sex, but since she very rarely feels like having sex, I do all the time and it makes it difficult, of course. What is your opinion on the subject of different sex drives in a couple? Is there such a thing? Maybe I'm also doing something wrong with sublimation. Okay, let's drop in because that is a brilliant question and topic. A couple of things. First and foremost is understanding the different types of sex drives in men and women. So most men are, in that case, in their masculine, in your cock. And think of your sex like your cock. It gets hard super fast, it's ready to go, it's all in. Think of a yoni. Think of a woman's vagina. We take 10 to 40 minutes to engorge, to actually have the blood flow there where we get puffy and open and wet. Now, men take about 5 seconds to get hard and erect. There's a big time difference. Many men think, oh, my wife doesn't have a sex drive because she's not responsive to sexual energy at the same speed as a man, as you. And so that's a perception that I want you to start to reshift in your head is women love everything around sex before they love sex. They love the seduction, they love the subtlety, they love the polarity play, they love their bodies being warmed up, they love their own space and practice. There is a huge amount of time and frequency around melting a woman into her full sex drive. So one thing I want you to drop in with you is, while you have a high sex drive, what are you doing to melt and open your woman daily and consistently? Now, this is where we drop into the 4-in-1 woman. Women are not the same every single week like men are the same every day. Sex drive, up, down, testosterone, cortisol, dopamine, let's go. Women go through hormonal cycles, and this is where you can basically track her hormones. So when you understand your partner's cycle, what you're going to understand is that on each week, she's going to have a different sex drive with different sexual needs to melt and open. And you want to basically use your sex energy to melt her and meet her at the same level of her sex drive. Meaning there may be some weeks or some days where she really doesn't feel like having sex at all because her body feels full. Usually when we're luteal or PMSing, unless there's lots of time given and a lot of like conversation and emotional processing and dumping and maybe some shamanic shaking, then we open up. So that's often a time to respect her, to just love her, to do the no sex for a week and lots of emotional, physical opening to just let her melt, to let her feel safe in sex, to let her feel open to wanting you. Women's sex drives definitely heighten over ovulation and follicle phase. After we bleed, leading up to ovulation, we are a lot more open, our yonis are a lot more wet, our vaginal fluid changes. So this is a place where you get to really work with her on that. Be with her hormones, flirt with her, play with her, kiss her neck, touch her shoulder, let her want your cock and say no. Begin to build polarity. Don't just be easy, like, okay, now I want sex, she wants sex, oh my god, yes, let's have sex. Take that out of the equation and add in all of the essence around sex. Nearly kiss her, look her in the eyes, smile at her, touch her shoulder, kiss her neck for no reason. Leave it at that. These small cues begin to open the feminine. Give her a breast massage slowly, but don't touch her nipples. And if she wants you to, put your hands over them, build the tension, and then grab her. What you're starting to do is build sexual tension and energy in her body. And this is where you get to learn basically the difference between a man and a woman's body. If you're looking for polarity balance, that's where you find it. A masculine body and a feminine body are by nature very different. So that's where the roles really get to come in a polarity buildup on a physical chemistry level. So that's the one thing, is shift your perspective. Women actually are more orgasmic than men. We have more erogenous zones than men. We have more forms of orgasm than men, but we take about 4 to 10 times longer to sexually awaken and heat up than men on a daily basis. So if you're wanting your woman to have as much of a melted, open, juicy, fiery sex drive for you, you need to be proactively melting, seducing, opening, and providing space for her to drop into her drip and flow. And you need to be watching her hormone cycles on her weeks, so know where she's at there, and find ways to begin to seduce her in her love language and in her body. It's no good just saying things. It's the way you look at her. It's the way you nearly kiss her. It's the way you touch her face. It's the way you send her a message when you're at work saying, I'm thinking of you. You start to seduce her and open her. It's the way you touch her hand and then just leave her. You start to open up a impulse of longing that then opens her into having a higher sex drive. And I can absolutely say this from my side. I had, for a long time, no libido, no sex drive. I didn't even have a bleed. I was so blocked here down. And what I realized was whenever I went to my yoni, whether it was with my partner or even in my own practice, it was just for an orgasm. So I got over it. I was like, I'm fucking done. Like it's just too much. I'm over it. I didn't realize that there was so much more in touch, in enjoyment, in pleasure, in melting, in saying no, in feeling wet, in knowing my cycles. When you as a man can create that space for her, she's going to get a higher sex drive, of course. So that's a couple things. To build a woman's sex drive, one, take sex off the table completely for a couple days in her cycle. That's going to optimize in her hormones. So when she's little, build up sexual tension with her by soft touches and leaving, with eye gazing, soft kissing, little messages that are building her all the time in her physical body to opening and melting. And then on the topic of sublimation, are you doing something wrong? The first thing is to come or not to come. It's a big question with sublimation. Sublimation is not the art of not ejaculating ever. It is the art of prolonging ejaculation so that you can experience prolonged pleasure and you can melt your woman for a longer period of time so that she can go into her full orgasmic state without you orgasming first. Women take longer to orgasm or open up very often. And it is an art form for a man to stay erect without ejaculating when in intimacy. So you're practicing sublimation to prolong your ability to hold your orgasm. That is why you're basically doing it. You're removing the goal of just the quick fix pleasure of release, the quick fix of pornography, the quick fix of fucking. You're shifting that out so that you have a prolonged ability to create and feel pleasure for yourself and for your partner. Now, if you're in your practice of sublimation, 2 key points. 1, if you want to consciously ejaculate. The biggest thing is mindfulness around your cum. It's not just something that you're just shooting out and coming and just whatever to some porn to just release and feel. You want to proactively use your life force and your sex energy for intentions, sex magic, building a dream, releasing. So go into a sublimation practice where you have prolonged your orgasm for 15-20 minutes. And then if you want to, consciously ejaculate. What I often suggest is write down what you're desiring in your life that's freaking you the fuck out. So use your orgasm in your self-pleasure practice for something powerful like your business. Write down where you want to go in your business and your work. Write down something that feels edgy but exciting, or with your partner, or whatever you're wanting to manifest. Go into a sublimation practice, and at the end, read over your intention. Let your body come into full pleasure and ejaculate. Let yourself have a release. But rather than it being over some girls titty fucking each other on porn and it's just this like, oh, I'm just releasing and trying to get over the lack of sex I'm having with my partner, let it be over an intentional desire after a prolonged period of time of holding your pleasure and moving it in your body. So that's one tip. The second tip is when you're sublimating, one of the most important things to do is not just to stop touching your cock when you're about to come and then just sit around or wait for it to get soft, because you're going to get stagnant energy in your balls and also in your sacral chakra and in your body. So what you want to do is you want to come to your 7 or your 8 where you're like, ooh, I'm going to come, release your cock, but breathe that energy. Close your eyes and begin to breathe it up your body. So you start to actually pull that energy in until your erection goes soft, not from ejaculating, but from breathing it all the way up to the top of your head and then down your spine to your anus. And what I recommend, and I do with my partner and I teach men to do if you're doing it by yourself, is to bring physical awareness to your sex energy moving. So you start your breath by tapping the tip of your erection and you pull your breath up slowly to your heart, to the top of your head, and then you exhale and you tap your asshole. Again, you tap the tip of your cock to your heart, to the top of your head. Release, tap your asshole. And what you start to do is you breathe your energy until your hard erection goes flaccid, but you're consciously breathing and seeing that energy moving into your other energy centers with your intention or with what you're cultivating. So visualize you and your partner having greater intimacy, feel it in your body. Visualize the next business deal you're doing, feel it in your body, and breathe it up into all your energy centers and let it release and cultivate in your body so that you're not letting that stagnant energy just sit in your balls and your cock.